you truly making choices or merely feeling as if you are?
Have you ever wondered why you sometimes say yes when everything inside you screams no? Why you remain silent while a storm rages within? Why you trust only to regret it later? This isn't weakness, it's a signal.
Somewhere deep inside you, someone has already placed invisible beacons.
And you follow them, believing you chose the path yourself. The world rarely tells you outright that you're a pawn. Its methods are far more refined. It smiles, it persuades, it whispers ideas into your ear that feel like your own. Real influence doesn't need to shout. It only needs you to believe it was your choice. History has seen such manipulators. Consider Clemens Metternich, the French political tactician of King Louis XVIII's era. He held no formal power, yet swayed royal decisions through trust, carefully chosen words, and subtle narratives. He never gave orders, he orchestrated. Even monarchs listened, thinking they were thinking for themselves. The same happens today. Most people are convinced they think freely, but in truth, they're conditioned. Family, upbringing, fear, guilt, the desire for acceptance, all become levers that someone else can pull. And if you don't know where your levers are, rest assured, someone does. It all starts with observation. A skilled manipulator listens first. They notice when you smile automatically, when criticism makes you tense, when you crave approval. They don't rush. They patiently map the cracks in your emotional foundation. Then comes the game. Not a direct one, but an elegant one. They create an atmosphere, approval, care, subtle flirtation, or sympathy. You feel seen, understood. That's the trap. It's not kindness, it's calculation. The more open you become, the closer they get to your center. One of their favorite tools is instilling a sense of obligation. They'll say things like, "I've always been there for you. You're the only one I can trust. I can't do this without you. And now, you're no longer living from freedom, but from duty. You're not choosing, you owe." Another tactic is quiet fear. If you leave, you'll be alone. You'll never find someone like me. These aren't threats, they're suggestions. And if the fear of abandonment already lives within you, the manipulator doesn't have to build a prison. You'll lock yourself in. Look at Marilyn Monroe. Her fame was only one side of the coin. Behind the scenes, powerful men steered her career, crafting the illusion of choice. Her femininity, her voice, everything was curated, polished, exploited. She was the product, not the author of her fate. The most sophisticated form of control is the one that doesn't feel like control, where you comply willingly, believing it was your own doing. And when everything collapses, you blame yourself, not the one who engineered it all. How many times have you done something you didn't want to, just to avoid upsetting someone, being misunderstood, or ending up alone? How many times have you said yes while every fiber of your being whispered no? That's not courtesy. That's the residue of deep influence that began long before that moment. And here lies the key. You don't realize how predictable you are. It's precisely this predictability that makes you vulnerable. Once someone identifies your repeatable reactions, they can begin to control you. The world doesn't need violence to rule you. It only needs your emotional scripts. As long as you don't see them, you live by them. You are not weak. You're simply exposed where you should have been impenetrable. But do you know where those places are? Have you ever wondered why some people always end up in toxic relationships, why they get betrayed, used, and then return to it again and again? This isn't fate, it's predictability. And a predictable person is the perfect target. A manipulator doesn't choose their victim randomly. They choose someone already prepared, by life, by childhood, by the past. Each of us carries small fractures. Some grew up craving approval because their parents' love depended on being good. Others are crushed by guilt every time they put themselves first. And some fear loneliness so deeply that they accept any relationship, just to avoid being alone with themselves. These fractures are entry points, and that's exactly where a manipulator slips in, like water through a crack. They don't break you, they listen. They instinctively find the part of you that you won't even admit to yourself. Take Salvador Dali, for example, a genius, no doubt. But behind his flamboyant brilliance lay a deep vulnerability, the fear of being overlooked, unrecognized. His wife, Gala, played this masterfully. She built a myth around him while tightly controlling his finances and private life. He worshipped her, while she quietly built an empire behind the scenes. This wasn't a partnership of equals, it was a performance where one side wrote the script. Some of us live with an endless need to please. We were taught that being loved means being agreeable, that love must be earned. So we go through life offering ourselves in exchange for attention, and anyone who can see that can use it. Just a drop of validation, and you're already surrendering. Others carry guilt like a silent burden. They say yes when they want to say no because they fear being selfish. They were taught that being good means being selfless, that others' needs come before their own. The manipulator doesn't even need to ask directly. A glance, a sigh, a subtle hint is enough. The feeling of duty is already activated. Then there are those who fear being left behind. They cling, even when it hurts. They'd rather suffer than face emptiness. Manipulators use a different tactic here. First, they offer the illusion of safety, then threaten to take it away. Without me, you're nothing. And the person believes it, because that fear whispered the same thing long before the manipulator ever arrived. Take Michelangelo. His patrons knew he lived for his art and yearned for immortality. They financed his work while dictating terms. He worked himself to exhaustion, tortured by obligation. Even genius couldn't free him from emotional dependence. Here's what you need to understand. Manipulation works not because the other is stronger, but because you are not whole. You can only be pulled by strings if those strings are left hanging. Your weaknesses are not shameful, but they demand a clear, honest look. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote, "The nature of the people is variable. It is easy to persuade them, but difficult to keep them persuaded." What did he mean? The manipulator doesn't convince with logic. They fill your gaps. And if you don't know where those gaps are, they'll find them before you do. There is a way out, but it doesn't begin with others. It begins with you. As long as you don't face your wounds, you will continue to call dependence love, friendship, or respect. You want to be free, but are you ready to let go of the illusions your life is built on? Many people want to stop being manipulated. Almost everyone dreams of being stronger, firmer, more independent. But when the moment comes to say no to someone close, to end a toxic connection, or to step out of the savior role, most hands begin to tremble. Why? Because freedom comes with a price, the courage to live without the crutches of guilt, fear, or emotional dependency. Freedom demands emotional armor, not walls, not coldness, but clarity. To stop being part of someone else's game doesn't mean becoming heartless. It means learning to distinguish where empathy turns into control, where kindness becomes an excuse for exploitation, where your sensitivity is turned against you. The first step is observation, not of others, but of yourself. In what moments do you give in? When do you fold, even though you're sure you're right? What makes you change your mind? This isn't about logic, it's about emotional triggers. Some fear appearing rude, others fear rejection, many fear breaking the peace. Each trigger is a lever, and while you don't see it, someone else is already pulling it. Take Abraham Lincoln, for example. He was known for his humanity, sensitivity, and willingness to listen to everyone. But it was his ability to separate emotions from decisions that made him a remarkable leader. He was kind, but never let feelings dictate his policies. He listened, but acted with cold precision. This set him apart from those who catered to the crowd and became slaves to public pressure. The second step is strategic detachment. This is the art of being present without dissolving. the ability to hear others' emotions without being swept into their drama. It means not reacting immediately, not taking compliments as absolute truth, not rushing to save someone who's drowning in their own passivity. You observe, you feel, but you don't let others drive you through their emotional GPS. The manipulator always hurries. They need you to feel, not think, to react, not reflect. That's why your power lies in the pause. Don't respond right away. Don't justify. Don't agree out of fear. This isn't coldness, it's freedom of choice. The third step is unpredictability. Manipulation depends on patterns. If you're easy to predict, you're easy to control. If you always feel guilty, always try to help, always avoid conflict, you become a manual. But when you break the pattern, the system crashes. Say no when they expect yes. Stay silent when they demand explanation. Walk away when they expect apology. This throws them off, breaks the script, and exposes their true intent. That's exactly what Muhammad Ali did. He wasn't just a boxer, he was a master of psychological warfare. His unpredictability, in and out of the ring, disoriented opponents. He understood that power isn't only in the punch, but in the ability to destroy expectations. The fourth step is building an internal core. The better you know who you are, the less you need to prove it. And the less you try to prove, the less control others have over your sense of self. Manipulation feeds on insecurity. It rattles you. Are you sure you're right? Maybe you're exaggerating? What if you're just too sensitive? But when your self-worth doesn't depend on outside validation, all those doubts collapse against your inner foundation. Don't fool yourself. This doesn't come from a video, a book, or a single conversation. It's training, like martial arts, repetition, failure, rising again, and moving forward. Every time you resist emotional manipulation, you forge armor. Every time you hold your position in silence, you shape your strength. It's not pride, it's protecting your sanity in a world that weaponizes emotion. Machiavelli was ruthless in his phrasing. He wrote, "Men must either be pampered or destroyed. If you harm them and leave them with power, they will take revenge." Harsh, yes, but it reveals a truth. In the realm of power, there is no neutrality. Either you master the emotional battlefield, or you're defeated on it. And here comes the harder question. What if the manipulator isn't some casual acquaintance, but someone close? A loved one, a parent, a partner, a boss? What do you do when disappearing isn't an option? That will be the most difficult test. Because here, theory ends, and reality begins. In the next part, we'll step into the most sensitive territory, how to recognize and break free from emotional control when it's disguised as love, care, or loyalty. Where is the line between closeness and captivity? Be ready. This will be the most painful chapter. It's much easier to expose manipulation when it comes from the outside, a colleague, a stranger, advertising, or a public figure. But everything becomes more complicated when the one subtly shaping your behavior sleeps beside you, shares your last name, or raised you. When control is wrapped in the appearance of love, care, or duty, there are no direct orders, threats, or demands here. Only hints, regrets, silence, and a delicate web of emotional dependence, one you helped weave. Manipulation within close relationships is the most destructive kind, because you don't just submit, you justify. You explain it away. She's just worried. He didn't mean any harm. They've done so much for me. You endure because you're afraid of losing. Because you hope things will change. Because it hurts to break something that seems real. But affection is not immunity. And love is not an indulgence. You can love someone who's slowly destroying you. That's not an anomaly. It's one of the most painful paradoxes of being human. Take Anna Akhmatova, a brilliant poet and a woman of profound inner strength. Her relationship with her husband, Niccolò Machiavelli, was complex. From passion to psychological pressure, from mutual inspiration to painful dependence. Later, she endured years of repression, surrounded by men who alternated between rescuing and betraying her. Her power was forged in a brutal context, where manipulation and devotion coexisted. Her poetry is not simply about love, it is about the pain of its distortion. The manipulator in your inner circle doesn't demand, they imply. They don't say, "Do this for me." They sigh, withdraw, fall ill, suffer, and you rescue, comfort, sacrifice, because otherwise things will get worse. But each time you lose a piece of yourself, you push aside your desires, place others' emotions above your boundaries, live by someone else's rules while forgetting your own. The most dangerous illusion is believing that the more you tolerate, the more your kindness will be valued. That's a lie. The manipulator doesn't appreciate your sacrifices, they calculate them. They build strategies where your silence is not seen as generosity, but as an invitation for more pressure. You gave in once, you'll give in again. But what if you can't leave? Family, children, shared responsibilities. Then the key isn't escape, but stance. And the first necessity is boundaries. Clear, firm, non-negotiable boundaries. A boundary isn't shouting. It's the calm statement, "I'm not participating in this anymore." It's a refusal to engage in emotional games. It's a quiet stop that doesn't require debate. Second, exposure. Not to convince the other person, but to make it clear for yourself what's happening, what you see, what you will no longer accept. It may be unpleasant, it may be met with aggression, sarcasm, or tears, but as long as you remain silent, you're complicit, and most importantly, resilience. Once you establish a boundary, you will be tested. You'll face protest, hurt feelings, accusations, silence. They'll try to pull you back into your old role. It's not revenge, it's habit. You were convenient, now you're not. You're changing the rules, and that threatens the structure. In that moment, you must stand firm. Franz Kafka is a living example of how love and guilt can become entangled. His letters to his father are a chronicle of life under the weight of a dominating figure, not through aggression, but through quiet, moral pressure. Kafka adored his father, and yet felt crushed by him. He lived in anxiety, trying to earn approval and avoid disappointment. His letters became his only form of escape, at least mentally. Sometimes true love means walking away, not betrayal, not cowardice, but exiting a broken dance where one gives too much while the other doesn't even notice. Sometimes salvation doesn't come from explaining, but from silent separation. Let the other face their own emptiness, and you return to yourself. Only after such an inner break can you start seeing things differently. You no longer believe words so easily. You hear the tone beneath the phrase. You begin to distinguish care from control, closeness from captivity. This is not cynicism, it's maturity. And now you're ready for the final step. How do you apply Machiavellian strategy to the modern world? How do you stay grounded in a reality where everyone is playing psychological games? How do you move beyond defense and become someone who actively shapes their environment? As long as you don't take control of your own mind, someone else will. You've reached the end. The point where the road splits. Go back to what was, or completely rewire the way you think, feel, and choose. Understanding the mechanisms is only half the journey. Awareness is important, but it's not enough. Knowledge without action is self-deception. Your life will only change when you start applying everything you now know. You can no longer pretend you don't understand how manipulation works. You've seen how subtly you've been programmed, with words, pauses, emotions, and roles. You've discovered your vulnerabilities. You've learned to set boundaries. You've seen who controls you, and why. But now the real question is, who will control you tomorrow? The problem is that the deepest manipulation isn't external. It's already inside you. It's not just in other people's words. It's in the thoughts you've never questioned, the patterns you've accepted as truth, the fears that have become part of your identity. The reflex to bend just to keep the peace. The automatic guilt after every no. The manipulator now lives inside you, in the form of an inner voice that says, "You must be good. You owe them your gratitude. You can't disappoint. You are nothing without approval." As long as you believe those lines, someone else is still in control. Carl Jung understood this. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You build your own cage and call it care. You stay in harmful relationships and call it love. You give yourself away and call it morality. But where in all this are you? The only way out is through total command of your inner system. True freedom isn't doing what you want. It's understanding why you want it, so that every decision is truly yours, so that no emotion drives you toward destruction, so that no look, no, I'm disappointed in you, can break your path. This takes discipline. You no longer have the right to say, "I didn't know." You can't afford to be agreeable just for harmony. You don't need to be liked. You need to be yourself. And this isn't loneliness. It's maturity. It takes pause before reaction. You no longer respond on autopilot. You don't save those who are breaking you. You don't try to convince the unwilling. You simply hold your ground, calmly, firmly, without shouting. It takes self-respect. Not narcissism, but a sober recognition. Your energy is valuable. Your time must not be wasted on emotional traps. Your boundaries are not aggression. They are health. Your freedom is not a threat. It is your responsibility. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man builds power on human nature, not by condemning it, but by understanding it." You don't need to become a cold manipulator, but you do need to become the strategist of your own life. Not a player, but an architect. Not a reaction, but a source. You've seen how manipulation works. You've identified your weak spots. You've learned to set limits. You've even figured out how to act when the manipulator is close. Now you choose, play by someone else's rules, or rewrite your own. Be led, or lead. Be a pawn, or the author of the entire board. Are you ready to stop being a puppet? Then act. If this video opened your eyes, don't stay silent. Leave a comment below. When did you realize you were being manipulated? What was the moment that made you see it? Or maybe you're still caught in it and looking for a way out. Share your story, because speaking it out loud is the first step in breaking the cycle. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. This is just the beginning.